On today's video, we are going to do a reverse, not reverse, a post front and back stitch. As you can see, there is very little curling with this, almost none. So you could use this as a border on a project. You could use this to make your whole project. It does make a rather thick piece. So, you might want to consider that. But this is one of those things that you can use for blankets. You could use edging around the bottom of a piece that you didn't really want to have something stretchy. It is a little stretchy. It is yarn after all. It's going to stretch a bit. And this is, I've done this out of acrylic. So let's get into it. So basically what I have done is I have chained, I think 11, 10, something, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So for the post stitch, we're going to do a front post stitch, and that's simply going around the 2 vertical bars, pulling up a loop. For the back post, you're going to go in between, and same thing, and pick up that. I'm going to show you something. You don't want to do what I just did. You want to make sure your yarn is behind your hook. Go back around that, pick that up. Front post, and again, make sure your yarn is behind your hook. Pick up your next back post by going through that, and it is going to be a little tight, so you're going to have to kind of manhandle, whatever you want to call it. And I know a lot of people will pull this through like this so they don't catch the others, and that's fine too. And then of course your front post. Many of these are exactly the way they are done in regular crochet. Front post again goes around, goes in, and pulls up the front 2 posts, goes around the back of the front, the 2, tongue-tied, goes around both of those bars from front to back. Pull that up, and then you're going to make sure your yarn is behind the hook. You're going to go from the back around both of those vertical bars, yarn over and pull your yarn up. And now I've got to the end here, and I'm going to do my neat close. And boy, did I mangle this one, didn't I? All right, well, we'll get back into it. And next week, we're going to look at some double crochet front and back post. You can do this, but there is a little bit of a setup for that one. When you're doing just front post, back post, one after the other, there is no setup really for it other than your basic foundation row. Again, for the front post, we're going to go through that, pick up both of those bars from front to back, and pull that up. Then you're going to make sure your yarn is behind your hook. Go from back to front and yarn over, pull up your loop. Front post goes from front to back, pull up a loop. Make sure that yarn is behind that. Goes from back to front and pull up a loop. You'll go from back to front for the front post, pull up a loop, and then you will go from the back to the front and through, pick up that stitch, and then we get to our last two and we all do our neat close, so we'll pick up both of those. And you can see I'm struggling a little bit because it does get tight, it does tighten down a bit. So you may want to work on doing this a little looser than normal. And when you see in a pattern, it says to you, put a front post on top of the previous front post, put a back post on the previous back post. What it's kind of telling you to do is to stack these. Now, you may get to a point where this is so tight you miss that front post here, but make sure that you don't, because it will throw you off. So of course you're going to go from back to front, pick up that loop, make sure the yarn is behind, go from back. They say back to front. You're kind of just wrapping it around that stitch is basically what you're doing. And you want to make sure you go through, pick up both, go around both vertical bars. Now you can almost see where that stitch is buried, so make sure that you're not losing a stitch. This is where counting comes in handy. And that is it for this this stitch. You're just going to repeat it over and over for as long as you want that pattern set. If you're doing it for a blanket, you just want to do it around, for the length of your blanket till you're ready to start the pattern for your blanket. It is it's a very forgiving stitch in many ways, and it makes a great, like I said, it makes a great border for blankets or really anything. Great border for the bottom of a scarf, for a shawl, whatever you're doing. If you are doing a shawl, I say shawl because a lot of people consider wraps shawls. So if you're doing a wrap and you want a nice little border before you get into the pattern of your Tunisian, then by all means, consider using this one. It's a great stitch to use, and yeah, that is it. All right, see you next week. Next week, we're going to do a little bit of learning how to do double crochet front post and what you need in order to start that. All right, see you guys soon. Bye. Okay, so again, for the front post, these are just normal front posts. You're going to go in towards the back and around both of those vertical bars, pull up a loop. For the second one, you're going to make sure that your yarn isn't behind the hook, and you're going to go from back to front and pick up that back stitch. A lot of people find it easier, like I said, to turn it over to get that stitch. Then front post again. Your back post, you want to make sure you don't lose that stitch. Do you see how that kind of buried behind this? So you may need to separate that out. bring your hook from back to front and around those two vertical bars. Pick that stitch up. The next stitch again, front post. Make sure you pull that out so you can see that. Make sure the yarn is behind your hook. Go from back to front around both vertical bars. Yarn over, pull through. And then, of course, you've got 2 more stitches. We've actually got more than 2 stitches. 6, 8. So again, we've got our stitch back here hidden. So you want to make sure that the yarn is behind that. Go from back to front. Pick up that stitch and pull that through. Now, here's where it's important to count your stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we know there's nothing else to pick up except for the last 2 because we only chained 11. So chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And like I said, this makes a nice stitch for a lot of things, for wraps, shawls, and I kind of lump those together because I know a lot of people consider a wrap the same thing as a shawl. We'll do one more row together. Going to go towards the back, come around both of those, pull up that stitch for the front post. For the back post, we're going to go in from the back and around those 2 stitches, pull up our loop. Then we'll go around for the front post. We'll go from front to back and around those stitches, pull up a loop. Again, we're going to make sure our yarn is behind the hook for that next back post. Well, we lost it there. And then, of course, around our last one, and then through the last 2 for our neat close. Chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And there you have it. Post stitches, pretty much the same thing as you would do with regular crochet. The only difference is you do need to make sure when you're doing those back post stitches that your yarn is behind your hook for this. Otherwise you might get a little confused there. But that is back and front post stitches in a nutshell.